Coming to you live. The baddest radio TV talk show around.
My better. We got everything politics on the street. We got everything media, TV, the street. We got everything politics on the street. My better. Follow my better. Introducing your host and co-host,
Kevin Nicostiba.
It's July the 28th, 2020, and we're live from our home studio. And I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm your girl, Cassiva.
And you're listening to My Better Half Unplugged.
That's correct. And we're coming to you unplugged from home. And you can follow us on Facebook at Kevin Cassiva. Better Half Kevin Cassiva. I gotta get that right. Yes. And also on YouTube. But tonight, we're gonna have a great interview tonight with our special guest. But in the meantime, what are we gonna talk about, babe?
And there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things happening this past week. And you have the protests, coronavirus, and also the death of Congressman John Lewis, which we'll be paying tribute to later in our program. But up front, since the tensions are escalating, we don't want to be the experts on what's happening. So we solicited some help from our friend, and that is retired FBI special agent Eric Jackson. And so we're going to welcome him to our program. We just want to thank him for being with us, and thank you all for allowing us to come into your homes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening.
I'm out because we heard that you said before the show that your daughter was having a birthday party down there. So we're going to shout out to your daughter, happy birthday. You would have named her, right?
Yeah. But, I know we got a long way to go, and we'll do some accolades at the end of our show also. And so we want our audience to really get to know who you are. They probably know in the Dallas area, but since we're broadcasting abroad, we want to make sure that they know your credentials, who you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm former special agent in charge of the Dallas division of FBI. I spent about 21 years in the FBI working every violation that we have responsibility for. Plus, prior to that, I spent about almost 8 years in the Navy as a hospital corpsman, as a medic, taking care of my Marines, and just enjoying life. Retired after 30 years of federal time, and just trying to enjoy life now.
What did you, we talked to you before, but what did you get the hunger for that? Going to the Navy and the FBI, how did you have the hunger for the services that you were involved with?
Well, I think everything really came from my high school days. I had a great plan, play football, to go on to college, to go into the NFL, and I wanted to do all that. But life took me a different direction, and I found myself graduating high school and really unaware of what am I going to do next. And I was walking in downtown Dallas, and I ran into a Navy recruiter and saw him and saw how he carried himself, and I was like, that's for me. And within 48 hours, I was signed up to join the U.S. Navy. So I really take that moment coming out of high school as a moment that changed my life in so many ways. With God's blessing, I wouldn't have known where I was going to go when I graduated.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why we asked you to come on this program was there's so much misinformation out there. And I think sometimes you have chaos because there's so much there's an opposition of information. And so we try to bring what we call the truth and facts. And so that people, especially in our community, don't get caught up with a lot of things that are not necessarily true. And then we act out the information that we get. So we wanted to bring somebody in that has perspective both inside and outside, of the institution and the communities. And so we know that you uh, were with the FBI, and we want to talk a little bit about, I titled it the rule of law, because that is probably one of the main points of the disturbance that is outside. So I saw an interview that you had, and you talked about your early days in the FBI and how you were recruited, how you got there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was finishing up my bachelor's degree, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and an ad came on saying that the FBI was looking for minority recruits to come in and join the ranks of being a special agent. I was up studying, getting ready for a test, and I saw that, and I thought that would be an awesome undertaking after the service that I provided within the U.S. Navy. That it would really be nice to see if that was going to be a future for me. So I applied that night, and within a year and a half later, I was at the FBI Academy, starting my career with the FBI back in 1997.
I used to be a Dallas police officer back in the day, and I always wanted to be an FBI agent. And I did everything. I took the test. I passed it with a 98. I'll never forget it because that's what I did. And I passed with a 98, and I told the lady, I told the guy, I said, oh, I would love to join your force. And he was like, okay. And then I found out I was pregnant. That crushed me because I wanted to be one so bad. And they say, well, you can still be one, but you have to give up your child. And I was like, oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. But when you went to the academy, because I know when I went to the police academy, I think it was only three African Americans in that academy. How many African Americans was in your academy when you went through the FBI?
Well, in my academy class, I was the only African American in my class until I think it was maybe week 9 when another African American was recycled into the class. But we were the only 2 that ended up graduating out of our academy class.
I think a lot of times, that's not appreciated because I think we're in an area where that's been kind of whittled down. You don't see a lot of times when they talk about the first, but back then the first meant something because you was fixing to catch hell. And people don't understand that when you were the first of something back in the 50s and 60s, you were getting ready to go through something. So I know that any institution back then, when you decided to do something, you were the only African American in there, you had your days of doubt whether, man, do I really want to go through this? You kind of going through that Jackie Robinson syndrome. And so people really need to appreciate that. That's why we were looking at John Lewis, because now they appreciate it because the whole story is not told. So when you say, I was the first candidate or the first one enlisted into the FBI as the African American, that's not the whole story.
Well, I just wanted to correct something. I wasn't the first African American enlisted in the FBI, but I was the first out of Dallas that had been recruited from Dallas in 12 years. So it was a unique opportunity for me to go and represent Dallas with the FBI to show that that quality individuals are in Dallas that can bring a lot to the FBI. So the one thing that was difficult, and it was difficult walking in on the first day of our academy class and looking around and seeing that you're the only candidate in your class. But one of the blessings that I got was my instructor who was in charge of physical fitness was African American.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still friends to this very day. And I learned so much from him just watching how he carried himself and the things that he did. So sometimes when you think you're actually alone, there are people put in your place or put in your life that are going to help carry you through. And he did. He was incredible, pushed me hard, no breaks, really, really told me how important the job of being a special agent was, especially being a African American special agent, being one of the Buffalo Soldiers, what we call the 5%ers that make up the FBI, and it was really important. So I don't look on those days as anything but fun because they built who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What was he? We're going to get to some crucial things, but as a mentor, because I know you all had private conversations. What was his special intent for you?
The best advice he gave me was that I am not here at the academy for vacation. I'm here to become a special agent. I'm going to carry a lot of power and a lot of weight with that job, and that I need to take it serious and I need to stay focused and don't fall into the traps of enjoying the fact that I'm away from home, that I'm in a college-like environment, but stay focused. And that advice was the greatest one because I did. I stayed focused. Many long 6-mile runs by myself to push myself. A lot of things, but I wouldn't look back on those days with nothing but fondness because it's builds your character, and that was the thing that really floated me during my FBI Academy time was developing the character that led me to where I was throughout my career.
Good.
Okay, Eric, and as you notice today in today's society that there's a lot of protests going on and all around the country and stuff like that. So, during the academy, they teach you a lot of things of how to take down your suspect and things like that. But when it came to George Floyd and the chokehold, do you think the chokehold should be banned now since he did that? Because back in my time, we was taught use your baton, use your gun, use your handcuff. They taught you a lot of different things, how to use those handcuffs to take down your suspect and things like that, which was effective. So you think they should ban the chokehold now? And do you think that it'll have a effect on how police are out there policing? Because I don't think it'll have an effect, but what do you think?
I think George Floyd's death was something very tragic for me to see because I know from the way he called out, letting people know that he couldn't breathe, to calling for his mother, that devastated me. That really caused my heart to hurt. That I watched on national TV a black man being killed in front of me, and the technique that was used against him, the knee on the back of the neck and people holding him down. I've never been taught that. I've never seen that. I've never heard that that's a technique. And this goes to what I think is the best answer for your question. To do something in law enforcement is based on repetition, and it's based on training, and it's based on accountability for what you're doing. If you are taught to do something, you have to be taught the right way. You have to be taught in a repetitious manner the right way to do it so that it gets the attended effect. That's whether it's firearms, that's whether it's baton, pepper spray, or whatever. You got to be trained. I've never seen in my life a training that shows to put your knee on the back of someone's neck to subdue them. And I'm bothered by that. And I think if you talk to law enforcement's bothered by it. We saw what happened as a result of their actions. And chokehold, whether it's chokehold or whatever, if you're not properly trained to administer it, then you shouldn't do it. And that's one of the concerns I have is lack of adequate training is leading to these incidents happening.
Mm-hmm. That is true, because we would never taught that either. So
Yeah. I know you said that in one of your interviews you talked about people were talking about defunding the police and how that kind of got misunderstood. But you said if it was your choice, if they were going to allocate money for the police department, you would put it in training.
Yeah, absolutely. Defund the police is a political talking point. It is not something that's a reality. I look at if people think that defunding the police and taking away and canceling police departments is the best way, what I would say to them is think about the founding of our country. When you didn't have police, you had vigilantes. You had individuals that took law into their own hands. And I guarantee you that those individuals do not care about civil rights. They do not care about your race or anything like that. They're going to use whatever method is possible. So the police is a vital part of our society. 911 is the most important number ever developed. When you call 911, you're calling for help, and you know that someone on the other end is going to provide that. That doesn't excuse things that have been happening and what I've been seeing, whether it's with Breonna Taylor or Ahmed or with George Floyd. It's not right. We are not there to take people's life. We're there to enforce the law, and there are ways to de-escalate that and still get the job done.
Do you think? I just want your opinion on the tension between the police and Black community now. So, is it fear, or is it mistrust?
I think it comes down to mistrust, because one of the things that in my 21-year FBI career, I never met an FBI agent until the day I arrived at Quantico, Virginia. No one in my neighborhood was an FBI agent. No one dealt with the FBI. So how would I know who they are? And what I see that's really affecting this country is the community needs to get to know law enforcement. And on the same note, law enforcement has to know the community that they serve. It's that simple. If you don't provide a service to someone who doesn't know you, and you can't trust someone that you never see.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. How do they plan on implementing something like that? Because when our African American people who have sons walk out their door and they're afraid that they're not going to see their child when they leave that house. So, I mean, because police officers are here to protect and serve. But if you're not protecting them anymore and you're becoming part of the problem, I'm trying to figure out, how do they plan on solving this problem to stop some of the protests from the protesters from being, in my perspective, that they're being abused now, because if they do a peaceful protest, how can you fix that?
There's a difference now. I saw the footage on John Lewis when you had the troopers there. Of course, they were all white, but one thing I did, I kind of had your philosophy. When I was back in Houston, there was a difference, I guess, in policing in Houston because I know a lot of them. So a lot of them went to school with me. They went to a police department. When the all industry went down in 82, 83, a lot of people went to the fire department and police department. And the police department at that time was sort of racist back then. But we was in our clusters of communities. So I could probably count the time the police came down the street because out of all the houses on the street, they had men in the homes. So I made it a fact for my kids to know policemen. We had a golf tournament here in Garland, and who do we invite?
Police officers.
We invited police officers because I wanted to make sure that I was acquainted with law enforcement. Now, there are bad police officers, but I can't say policemen and wipe it with a white brush because I have relatives that are policemen, and they're nothing like what they're describing. So how do I get around that?
Well,
Because everybody thinks it's the police department as a whole.
you have to understand, and this is what we have to talk openly and honestly with the community. Police departments, including the FBI, we're a microcosm of society. The same ills that society has, find their way within what we do. First thing is we got to hire the right people. Being a police officer, being a special agent in FBI, that's one of the most critical jobs in America. You have so much power. You're carrying a weapon that has the ability to take someone's life. So you got to have the right person first who can be responsible for carrying out that mission and being responsible as a law enforcement officer. To me, that's the basic first thing is you got to hire the right people. The next thing is the community shouldn't be afraid of us. And if the community has fear of us, then we're not doing our job. We should make the community feel as though we are there to protect and serve, and we're there to have their back. One of the things that I did as a special agent, I made a point to go to elementaries, to middle schools, to high schools, to colleges, to every organization that I could find time to sit down and talk with them, because I wanted them to get to know me, to see that I have the same issues that they have. I have the same problems that they have, that I put my shoes on one at a time, and that I'm just trying to make it through life and survive life and build that bridge between us. And that's what law enforcement has to consistently do, is build that bridge. But the community also has a responsibility. You got to treat people with respect and honor who deserve it. And as you said, it's not every law enforcement officer. You cannot paint an entire department because of one individual. What you need to do is look at that department, get to know that department. When I was stationed in Kansas City, the chief of police, his name was Daryl Forte, one of the kindest, most dedicated servants I've ever worked with. Every shooting, every officer involved thing, Chief Forte came out and he sat with the community and talked, because he wanted the community to know that he cared. And he did such a fantastic job at it. It's a great example. And that's what we have to make the community understand, is that we care. We're just not doing this job to earn money or earn status. We're doing it because we want people to be able to live peacefully in their neighborhoods and have a great life.
So you said that you have to have the right people. So in order to have the right people, to hold police officers accountable for what they're doing, then if they're not doing that, then how the police supposed to get better if they don't even have the right people holding them accountable? Because I know that, like I said, being an ex-police officer, they do have police unions. And I used to be a union rep for over 20 plus years. So I know that they have a way of helping them get around things that they might have should have been held accountable for. So how do you get the right people in the right places to prevent this from happening? Especially if you know an officer is not doing his job the right way and he has some illegal things that he's doing. How do you hold them accountable if they don't have someone at the top of the list to hold them accountable? Eric? Well, I guess we'll take a break right quick.
Okay, we'll take a break in a minute. We'll be back in 1 minute.
2 minutes.
Ooh, ice cold. Freeze pop.
Calling all parents, grandparents, and caregivers. Do you have children ages 7 to 16 years old? Are they bored in the house and in the house bored? I have the solution. I am so excited to announce that Tomorrow's Purpose registration is now open. Come join us for our first virtual summer literacy camp. Let us help foster the love of writing in your child. We will be offering your kids an opportunity to learn writing skills to create their own book, become an entrepreneur, learn how to create their own YouTube channel, as well as social emotional learning, healthy eating, and arts and crafts will be taught. The starting date was July 23rd, but there is still time to sign up. We meet every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and the cost is only $20. For the registration form, go to Tomorrow's Purpose Facebook page or send an email to tomorrowspurpose@gmail.com or head over to the link tree, which is linktr.ee/ the letter B as in boy, the number 2, Carol, and click on the link for the virtual youth literacy camp. We look forward to your child participating in our program.
Come back. Had a little technical difficulty there, but I mean everybody's having CNN and everybody. But what we were talking about a few minutes ago, we did have some questions uh, for Eric from some of our viewers.
But he gonna answer the question that I left off with, right, Eric?
Yeah. The question you had is how do we hold people accountable when we're in an age of unions, police unions, and things like that? What I would say is, and it's what I say to all my chiefs of police: you have to hold people accountable, and you have to dismiss or fire someone. There's hope. There are people who want to be police officers, who understand how important it is and how vital of a position it is. Derek Chauvin had 17 complaints against him, and he was to be the training officer for other officers. How can an individual with that many complaints be someone that you would want to train your incoming officers, because he's going to train what he knows? And I just have a concern with that. And that's why I've talked to my chief of police friends here in North Texas and in other places is uh, it's better to lose one troubled employee than to lose your department. And your department's reputation can be faithfully damaged by that one employee, which happened in Minneapolis. So it's all about accountability. It's about doing what's right for the bigger picture and not for that one individual.
Okay, one of our viewers was asking. She said that how extensive is sensitivity training, or is there any really is there any provided in law enforcement? We hear of it, but don't really see it in practice.
Well,
So she want to know how extensive is the sensitivity training.
if you look, and I go back to the President Clinton days and forward, one of the things that has really hurt law enforcement is money and dollars being provided for training. There's a lot of money provided for a lot of other things, tactical gear and things like that, but money for training. One of the things that we specialize in the FBI, which I was always very proud of, is that we would offer training to our law enforcement partners and friends, and it was always free. We just wanted to get it out there. So officers are getting sensitivity training, and they're carrying. If you look at the number of incidents that are happening, they're not as large as people will think they are. But that doesn't matter, because if you take one incident like what happened in Minneapolis, that was seen worldwide. That caused irreparable harm to that department. So all of the great things that the majority of the law enforcement officers are doing every day to protect that city were wiped away by Derek Chauvin's actions. That's why it's so important. Training, accountability, holding people accountable for their actions and the things that they do. That's how you build that bridge with the community.
We have our branches of government right now are disjointed, and you're an FBI agent. So I mean, probably in your career, you did have to go in to a particular police department because of federal crime or something, and it was probably trying to get blood out of a turnip.
No, I disagree with that. When I've been in that situation where we have a law enforcement officer that's violated color of law or some other federal violation, the minute I walk into that chief of police office and I tell them that we've opened an investigation and it's probably going to lead to some type of charge or indictment, there's no better cooperation that we receive than from that department, because they want to hold those people accountable. They don't want those individuals in their rank. I never had one situation in my 21 years where I walked into a department and informed them that we were conducting an investigation of one of their officers, that there was any pushback. All we ever received was cooperation, because that chief of police trusted us. They knew that we were not just going to bring a frivolous investigation against this individual, that is based on something, and we shared that information with them. So I would push back against that one. I never in 21 years ever had to push.
Well, another viewer, Diane, she says maybe defund is not the best word when it comes to the police department. She said, but she think reassigning dollars and in certain social services is what's intended. So what do you think?
I agree with defund is a terrible, terrible statement that has become politicized. And once things become politicized, people really start going to their corners. What I think we're talking about is reforming the way that police departments run. Police officers are not trained to be social workers. They're not trained to be psychologists. They're not trained for any of that. We have people who are specifically trained for that. What police departments have to figure out, and what the communities and politicians have to figure out, is how best to meet all of the requirements that the community needs without putting all of those burdens on the police departments. It's a tremendous thing when a police officer shows up at a domestic violence situation. They're trained to de-escalate it. They're trained to investigate it and take people into custody. But there are people who are better trained to handle the actual domestic situation. We put a lot on police officers these days, and we're wondering why they're having such troubles. It's because it's a great example. In the early 2000s, the FBI was asked to go out and arrest individuals' fathers who were not paying their child support, things like that. You're talking about using an organization to, in essence, run down these individuals. It's important. It is vital that people pay their child support and things like that. But is that really the mission that you want an FBI agent to undertake?
No.
No, not at all.
No. You know, now, reason why I said that is, I hate to grill you, but I got to. You know, when we was in school, I remember the teacher used to put up on the board, she would do a math problem, do a, equation, and she would put 2 minus 2, it would equal 0, and then 3 minus 3, and then she would ask, is that equal? And when we first started talking, I asked you about like the rule of law, because even, I don't care who it is, it could be you and I, what's been branded in the dispensation of policing, because it wasn't no, in John Lewis' day, it wasn't no community stuff from the police department. They actually feared the policemen. So in what dispensation line did they say, okay, let's try to change that, because what got branded into African Americans is how we see justice. We see justice like, if something is going on, the moment what we say is, if that had been a white person. That's the way we see justice. And I don't care who it is. We always do that. We say it from the president up. If that had been Obama. So that is in our mind on justice. So how do we correct that? How do we get around that? Because in dispensations, there are still people living through the dispensation of policing that may be different today. Because I'm friends with a lot of policemen, but still people are branded in their dispensation.
Well, one of the things, police officers, and I know this for a fact because I talk to a lot of police chiefs. They understand the legacy, the legacy of the police departments. In the South, police departments, sheriffs, and others were used to hold down the Black population. If you go through many of the number of killings and bombings, there was a member of law enforcement who was wrapped up in this in some shape or form.
Right.
That's a legacy that you have to own. You can't ignore it. You can't walk away from it. You have to own it and understand that police departments throughout the world have been used to subjugate the society. And that's how people view law enforcement. That's why it's so important that you hold yourself accountable to those that you serve. In most of the foreign countries that I visited and I've talked to them, they can't hold their law enforcement accountable. There's no mechanism, no system. Here in the US, we can hold our law enforcement accountable. We are not here to be abused by individuals that carry the badge or anything. We're here to be protected and served by those individuals. And that's why it's so important that not only we hold ourselves accountable, we hold those around us accountable. We hold our partners, those that work with us, we hold them accountable because without that accountability, there's no trust and the community's not going to trust us. And every time I see talking to Congressman Lewis when he was a young man, I mean, in every photo, there's a law enforcement officer. And that's a legacy that we have to be better than. We have to move past that legacy. And one of the things that really touched my heart was during his funeral procession on this Sunday, to see this time when he crossed the bridge, to see state troopers were there to salute him. That's how you change something from being terrible to something that's being possible to be great. You understand the pain, you accept the pain, and you move forward, but you move forward in a positive way. And I met Congressman Lewis, and he is the most humble man I've ever met in my life. And I can't imagine the pain and suffering that he went through at the hand of law enforcement or the racists that were in Alabama. I just can't imagine that. But one of the things I say is never again can we allow that to happen in this nation. Never.
So, with this, the Black Lives Matter protest, what is going on with them utilizing the people? They don't have any badges on. They don't know who they are.
But they're deploying custom agents or,
Homeland
into,
Security.
and they're not, they're not identified, and they're taking people off the streets and
that are doing nonviolent protests. So once again, there you're going to have a distrust in the police because I heard one of those people say they didn't know if they was being kidnapped or what, because these people had no identification on them. So once again, how are we supposed to trust them if we don't even know who they are?
Well, I will tell you, and I will speak forcefully about this, and it goes to what I just said. Never again can we allow police officers to be used to harm the citizens of this great nation. I spent 21 years in the FBI. I spent numerous years conducting domestic terrorism investigations. I've looked at demonstration protests when they had the 40th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination in Memphis. I had 250,000 people in a 5-block area, looking at it from a federal standpoint. This is a great example that we're losing the community's trust. As an FBI agent, I'm taught from day one that one of the things that we're there to protect is the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic. What that means is taking care of those people. I don't understand, and I'm going to seek answers to what I'm about to state as a question. I've never been in a situation where we have not identified ourselves. I've never been in a situation where we're arresting people without probable cause or without some type of judicial indictment or something like that, arrest affidavit or something like that. I'm lost, and this is another opportunity that I'm concerned that law enforcement is not being utilized properly.
right.
And I feel as though that there are people who are attending these demonstrations that are using those demonstrations as platform to either commit violent acts or to carry out something that supports their ideology. The majority of the people that I see are peaceful protesters. They're people, they're moms, they're former vets, they're children. They're out there to just use the voice that our Constitution has given us in the First Amendment. The people who are showing up to do damage, to try to hurt law enforcement, try to hurt other people, burn buildings and things like that, those are the people that need to be focused in on,
Exactly.
not protesters. And again, I make this statement, and I left the FBI in 2019, but I know no situation in my 21 years that we didn't identify who we were.
Correct.
You know, Eric and I, you know, me personally, and that's why I say I'm glad you're on our program tonight. You know, I watch, you know, I watch a lot of news, and I know you. I don't know if you did or not, but I saw the hearing today. You know, Capitol Hill, and I really have a serious concern about the election. Like some of this stuff is dress rehearsal. And if there is a scene of where the voting opportunities are interrupted, I'll just say the word interrupted. I don't know how we would de-escalate the response. I just don't see it. Maybe you do, but I just don't see it.
Well, I know for a fact, as a federal agent, I wasn't allowed by FBI policy and by rules from the Department of Justice, from the AG, to interfere with anything that had to do with the election. I was reminded of that every election for 21 years. And anything that crosses that line, that is potentially going to use federal law enforcement officers for anything election related, it violates, number one, the Attorney General guidelines, which dictate how federal officers in the Department of Justice are supposed to respond to election related things. But also, I think the fix for that is that everybody comes out and votes. That is one of the things Congressman Lewis bled. There are thousands of people that bled for the right to vote, and that's something that we should never take for granted. And people need to come out, and that's one of the guarantees that we're allowed is to vote. I'm not telling people who to vote for. I'm just saying you need to vote. If people come out and vote, I can't see where there is going to be shenanigans and things like that, because the American people won't stand for it. They will not stand for it. And I'm hoping that my federal fellow
I am too.
Remember what our oath is, and our oath is that we protect the Constitution. We protect and defend the Constitution from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And we hold ourselves responsible for making sure that the American citizens are protected at all time. And I don't want conspiracy theories to keep people from voting, or the fear of something happening to keep people from voting. What I would tell people is on election day, you need to come out and you need to exercise one of the greatest rights that you have as a United States citizen.
We talked a little bit about John Lewis, and it's sad that you have to learn more about a person when they're dead, especially of the sacrifices that they made. And I think I learned a little bit more about integrity since I followed, you know, his journey, because to put yourself in his shoes, I probably, I just say I know I could have done that. And we thank God that we had people who would risk their lives to make it better for us, in this time. And for for him to have the homegoing that he had, I think it was well deserved. Um, but tell me a little bit more about someone like that. How important is someone like that to the African American community?
Well, I will tell you, and I'll say it from my life legacy. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up in the projects, less than 10 blocks from the Lorraine Hotel. I was raised understanding Dr. King's sacrifice, John Lewis' sacrifice, Hosea Williams. I was brought up and taught how important the men and women, Rosa Parks, and everybody were to the fact that I could walk around the streets of Memphis and go into any bathroom, go into any restaurant, movie theater, and not be judged on the color of my skin. I think sometimes I worry that people have forgotten those sacrifices and how important those sacrifices are and were. And one of the things that I tell as many people as are willing to listen to me is sacrifices that are not cherished end up getting lost. And they sacrificed so that I could join the FBI. They bled, they were beaten, people were assassinated. Uh, just terrible things happened to the Black community, uh, uh, before I was born. And lest I forget those sacrifices and take for granted that I did this all on my own, that's a legacy I never want to have. I want to remember uh, the people who bled so that I could be the first Black special agent in charge of the Kansas City field office. So I could be the first Black special agent in charge of the Dallas field office. So I could be the first Black man in my family to have a college degree. They bled for that and they sacrificed for that, and uh, I would uh, I would suffer pain to forget what was done on behalf that allowed me to do that.
Right.
Awesome job.
I think that, like you said, I think what we're missing is those people are the people who open the door for you, but you had to prepare yourself to walk in.
Right.
Because just because the door is open doesn't mean you can just walk in. They're not just going to hand out jobs. You got to prepare yourself for it. And then once you're in there, be conscious of those who are coming behind you and trying to come in the same door. Don't close it behind you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's what we really need to remember, even when we're advancing anything, not to close the door behind us, because there are other people who are looking and following, and so we want to make sure that we do that. Of course, you had to go in. I respect you for going in and having the drive that you had, because when I grew up, I never saw an FBI agent. I had never met one until I met you. Because when they said FBI, I thought they were all white. That's what we grew up thinking. So in our era, when we heard the word mailman, we thought men. When we heard the word doctor, we thought men. We didn't think women, because that's the era we grew up in. But in a lot of cases, when we would say those words, we didn't think about Black men either.
No.
We didn't think
Well,
about Black men.
when John said something that really humbled me, that the first person he met was Rosa Parks, and then he met Dr. Martin Luther King, and these two individuals set his life on a course. And I always think about that is when I meet people, what direction am I going to set their life on? That's why it's so important that the Black community, the minority community, even the white community know that there are Black special agents in the FBI, and that we do some of the most complex investigations that are going on in the FBI today. We meet with the highest echelons of people within the federal government. You're showing a picture of John Lewis with President Obama. I had the honor to meet both of those gentlemen, and I need to make sure that I present myself and I leave myself open because there may be a kid who may say in 20 years. The reason I joined the FBI is because I met a Black special agent in charge named Eric Jackson, and he did this for me. He made me feel this way. And that's a legacy that every one of us, whether you're an athlete, a musician, or whatever, we have to set the legacy for those that are going to follow us. And if we think that we're going to take this journey by ourselves, we usually end up by ourselves. We need to take this journey together, and you only have one opportunity to let people see who you are.
Yeah.
And you got to show them that you're there, and that you struggled and you fought and you ran so that they can walk.
Right. That's one of the things on my bucket list to meet President Obama. I'm kind of envious of you because both of them. And then another thing people didn't know about Congressman John Lewis is that march started because Jimmy Lee Jackson got killed for trying to vote in. He was doing that because of that. They went to march several days later. And so sometimes even in George Floyd, technically that's what we're doing. One of our brothers was killed and everybody came out, and marched, and you kind of meeting the same resistance a little bit, but it's a little bit different. But I think you, like you said, when you have those people in your life, for you to meet President Obama, meet John Lewis, and then have the gentleman at the FBI mentor you through, you need that, to
I'll
succeed.
tell you the difference between Bloody Sunday and what's happening today. In the community that I live in Frisco, there was a demonstration that was held here, and they marched a long way, and it was just beautiful seeing all the different races that took part in that. But the thing that just touched my heart more than anything else was that march was co-sponsored by the Frisco Police Department. That the Frisco Police Department wanted to create an environment where people could peacefully demonstrate and use their voice. And I swell with enthusiasm just seeing the officers walking, riding, cheering, smiling, and the crowd doing the same back to those officers, thanking them, handing them bottles of water. That's the America that I think exists, not this one that's being manufactured to look like we're all just tearing each other apart. That's flat out wrong.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So Eric, I have another question. Sally wants to know, what is your best advice for anyone wanting to job in the upper level law enforcement, such as FBI, CIA, and things like that?
Well, first thing I would tell everybody is those jobs are achievable. Don't let anybody make you think that you cannot become a police officer, you cannot become a special agent within the FBI or any of the other federal law enforcement, or becoming a member of the intelligence community with the CIA or NSA. You can do it. You have to get the education that goes along with that, because the majority of the people that they're trying to hire have bachelor's degrees at a minimum. Advanced degrees will help, but the biggest thing is to know that you belong there and to apply. It's one of the things that really made me sad for many years in the FBI was going to a career fair and not seeing minorities, African Americans, coming by my booth to talk to me, and that always stuck with me. That I'm here as a Black man standing at a career fair, willing to talk about this awesome job that I have, and no one that looks like me is coming to my booth. One of the things that I loved is at the end of my career, doing the same thing. I saw a lot of minorities coming to my booth, and that's what we have to do. We have to, number one, believe that we deserve to be members of these organizations, and then we have to do what's right to go out. Getting in trouble, drug use, not taking care of your finances and things like that, those are all sometimes insurmountable obstacles that can keep you from having that career. So what I tell the young people all the way up to those in college is stay away from the drugs, stay away from things that will get you in trouble, and take care of your finances, pay your bills, because the people who often end up corrupted are those people who can be corrupted financially or things like that. So that's the advice that I would give. But the FBI is looking for minorities. I would point anybody there and say that this is probably one of the greatest jobs in America, and you should seek it out.
We used that actually when we interviewed you a couple of years ago, and you all was holding a job fair for the for young people who wanted to investigate becoming employees of the FBI. We did that in our summer camp. That's one thing, because it was beyond these kids, thinking that they could do that. Their level of law enforcement was policemen. And so you know what they thought about that. But when I said FBI, they couldn't even conceive that because they had really never seen it. But then I told them the importance of keeping themselves, educated, staying out of trouble. We use that as a encourager for them in their careers. So when we talk about entrepreneurs, we had them write books on that. A couple of them wrote about being a FBI agent or CIA.
I will tell you, if we have to start recruiting people young, because one of the things that I saw is a lot of people make mistakes in their high school and early college years, which remove them from their ability to ever apply for these jobs. So we have to set the foundation, and the FBI is looking for minorities. They're looking for African American men, African American women, all minorities. And I will tell you, and I will defend this statement to anybody. The FBI can only be the best organization it can be if it looks like the people that it serves.
Right.
Well,
oh man, it went fast.
It did. And I know you have to get back to your daughter's birthday party.
But we personally want to thank you. Man, you have really been an influence in our lives. And we love your whole family.
Yes.
And every time I think about law enforcement, you come to mind. It kind of calms me. Because I know somebody that has the integrity that you have. And I just want to thank you for doing our show today, and I hope it helped the community, and I hope a lot of people pass this show on to their families, in the time of this distress, that there is somebody out there who has the integrity and has a concern for the community, and at the same time wants the best for the country. So, man, I just really want to thank you for what you did for us this evening.
You're welcome, and as I always say, I went to high school in Dallas. I love Dallas. I love this community. I love the people in this community, and it's a great community. And we have to work together. And all of this nonsense, bring it to an end, and just be the greatest city in town with the greatest football team in town.
I don't know about the greatest football team.
You know, I come down, you know, I always make jokes on them, you know. But yeah, they kind of won me over, so I'm down here now. So they make me mad following them because I know how good they are.
Thank you, Sally.
I love my boys. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Eric, and tell your daughter thank you for sharing us with us on her birthday.
All right. All right. Have a great day.
You too, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, we're gonna close out, you guys, and hope you join us next
Subscribe.
week. I hope you guys had a great time, and
Subscribe to our channel.
subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Better Have Kevin Casiva, and put your thumb up for liking us on Facebook.
And thank you all for sharing this hour with us. And remember, I don't care what happens, God is still on the throne, and God is still good. So whatever happens, let's make sure that we bow our heads to Him, and that He will take care of us in these trying times.
Are you closing out with a video
I think we're going to close out with a
tribute?
to John Lewis, and I think we owe him that respect.
Yes.
So
Good night and enjoy the video.
On that bloody Sunday, 55 years ago, it was a bridge too far, a climb too steep for John Lewis and the other peaceful marchers who were caught in a vice of police brutality. But on this Sunday, yesterday, the road was clear for John Lewis. Atop a horse-drawn caisson, he was carried across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, completing the journey that symbolized who he was. He embraced nonviolence, but he didn't flinch from the blows that would come either. By the time he suffered that vicious beatdown in Selma, he had already faced attacks and ridicule. But it was that bridge, the way to Montgomery to petition for voting rights, and that awful Sunday that so clearly defined the tenacity and courage that was John Lewis. A moment that shamed America, framed the life of a peaceful warrior for justice.
We came here to protest an unjust system of denying blacks the right to vote. And we met people who did not want us here. They call us troublemakers. We walked to the apex of this bridge. We stopped and realized we could not turn back. And when we look ahead, we saw a sea of blue. Alabama state troopers. History reminds us that on March 7, 1965, we loved America so dearly. We were ready to die for her.
His final crossing, spanning the tenterhooks of time and history.